What's up everyone? My name is Trenton, also known as Trenton907. That's what I go by on Twitter. If you're watching this, that's probably how you got here. Today, I figured since I went over my printing process for Proxies last week, that I would go over just another quick rundown of how I go about actually sticking that proxy paper to bulk magic cards. It's relatively simple, but it does take some time and practice. I don't use a paper cutter anymore. The paper cutter I had actually did not cut straight, so that was a lot of fun. Wasted a lot of time and lost a page of Proxies, but regardless, I'm gonna kind of just go over everything, what I do, how I do it, just show you what I know, and hopefully it helps you when you continue to make your Proxies. So without getting too crazy, let's just jump right into it. So for the most part, all you're really gonna need is a cutting device, whether that be a paper cutter you're comfortable with that cuts straight, or a handy dandy pair of scissors. I'll explain why I have a Sharpie. It's more of a cover my ass kind of thing. And an X-Acto knife, which be very careful with. Don't raw dog it, use gloves. Don't do what I do. Be safe, kids. And then your Proxies. So these are some Proxies that I had printed on my foil paper, and we're just gonna kind of jump into it, I guess. I do have a couple that are just sitting here that haven't been stuck yet, and I do have some that are just plain paper. Pick your medium, whatever works best for you. Anything works, anything goes kind of deal. Whatever you've got access to, these are probably going to be just fine 99% of the time. So more or less, all I'm gonna do is cut out the general shape of our Proxies. You can get a little bit more technical when you're getting close to the borders of the cards. I try not to get too crazy because you are gonna spend some time actually fine-tuning your cuts. And if you cut too close, then you don't have, or depending on your quality of scissors, then you don't have a very good cutting edge, and it's really easy to mess up the edge of the card, especially on the foil paper. Usually right along the borders, I'll be even more careful, and usually I'll cut thinner rather than give it too much space. For now, let's just bang out this mana crypt really quick and show you what that's gonna end up looking like. Bam. And that's pretty much it. So now what you can do is take just a bulk magic card and your slip of paper. And this is why I double sleeve all of my Proxies, especially for competitive, because there's a mix of Proxies and real cards in there. But now when you slide this bad boy into the sleeve, no one's gonna be ever the wiser that you have a mana crypt. It has a magic back, so you could actually just play with clear sleeves like this. The stick-on Proxies could be a little bit more finicky, especially when you're trimming the edges. Sometimes you'll slip with the X-Acto knife and you'll end up with a small chunk of the card. You have to be really careful. It's kind of nature of the beast. That's why I say, I mean, I've only been doing this for a couple months. I still mess up on my Proxies from time to time. So yeah, this would be a completely stream and sleeve playable card. It still has magic artwork. It should be picked up by spell table. You know, sometimes they're not. Obviously, some other cards like this displacement wave would not be picked up via spell table, but it's a rubber ducky. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and jump into cutting out foil paper next. So this is a little bit trickier. You have to follow your edges just a touch tighter. I'll usually, like I said, I'll cut more into the card if I need to rather than less. Worst case scenario is you have a smaller area to stick to the card with no overhang. That's why I print at 99%, like I mentioned in my last video. 99% scaling usually leaves a touch of the card hanging over the edge of the magic card, so I can actually trim off any excess. But let's go ahead and let's do the Sarah Ascendant, because I actually need one of these for my Winota list. So there you go, and see right there, right next to Rick, you can see there's a pretty decent chunk of white still left here. That's plenty for my scissors to not try and slip off the edge, so makes good cuts. And let's get to it. So again, following very closely to the edge. Even if you cut into the border of the card just a touch, that's not going to be the end of the world. All right, So now if you look very closely, like right there at the top of this Sarah Ascendant, you can see there's just a touch of white hanging over the edge. It's kind of normal. Obviously with a pair of scissors, it's not going to be perfect. It's not like I'm using one of the corner punches, which you can buy. I've heard either 2mm or 3mm corner punches work just fine. I don't have one. I don't use one. I just, I go crazy with my X-Acto knife. And now we can actually stick this to a magic card. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a bulk magic card that we really don't care about, and we're gonna use that as our proxy base. So this is why I usually end up double sleeving. The thickness of the foil paper and the thickness of the magic card do technically make them slightly thicker than the magic card. So just another reason I double sleeve. It's much harder to notice, if you can notice at all, when the entire deck is double sleeved, if one of the proxies is slightly thicker than any of the others. But that is a caveat to how I do this, is that all of your proxies, or all of my proxies, will end up being slightly thicker than a magic card. So just be mindful. Like I said, that's just another reason that I double sleeve them. From here, what we're gonna do is peel off the back. And this is the time consuming part, because we know we have some overhang of white there. You can see it just barely. And we have a tiny bit of overhang at the top. So I'm actually going to want to align this more towards the bottom of the card and along the right edge. So that way, when I have excess and I'm trimming with the X-Acto knife, I'm actually trimming the left edge and the top to try and get rid of any of that white. See, and I have a tiny bit on the bottom as well. We're not gonna be able to get all of it. That's why I have the Sharpie. But if we can get most of it, then we'll be looking in good shape. Once you get it relatively laid out, squeeze out any air bubbles, and voila, you have a shiny magic card. Now, if you flip it over to the back, you can see hollow paper sticking out there and hollow paper sticking out here. And this is where the X-Acto knife comes into play. Again, kids, don't try this at home. Wear safety equipment. I probably should, but you know. And you're just gonna do everything you can to follow the edge of the magic card. So you're gonna apply a small amount of downward pressure as you pull the X-Acto knife towards you. You're gonna end up with this little strip of glitter. But now, top of the magic card, bam, no more white. And we're gonna do the same thing along this left edge. So now if you go around and look, you'll see that I do still have a tiny amount of white right there at the bottom of this card. And we're just gonna take our Sharpie, and we're just gonna touch that up. Very small amount, and voila. Now you have a sleeve playable, even single sleeved. If the entire deck is proxies, then you could single sleeve this. Because I am that kind of person, I am going to sleeve it in a perfect fit, and now voila, I can go throw this in my Winota deck, which is all double sleeved. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So pretty straightforward. Take your time. It is a time consuming process. It probably takes me 3 to 5 minutes per card, sometimes more if I just can't quite get a card to line up the way I want it to. You know, if you do a 100 card deck, you're gonna be there for a while. So just plan that accordingly. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope this helps. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. Once again, I go by Trenton907. You'll probably be able to see it here. I'll just link the previous video in case you haven't seen that yet, on how I go about setting up my computer for all my printer settings and swapping out settings when I swap mediums, all that good jazz. Yeah, I hope this helps. And in the meantime, we'll see you later.